An absolutely heart-crushing loss for the Detroit Pistons to open up their season and open up at LCA against the Indiana Pacers. We'll break down what went wrong and why couldn't the Pistons close this game out in today's episode of the Locked On Pistons podcast.
You are Locked On Pistons, your daily Detroit Pistons podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's the deal? Welcome back to another episode of the Locked On Pistons podcast. Per usual, I am your host, Koo Cahill. You can find me over on Twitter at Koo Cahill. I want to thank you guys for making Locked On Pistons your first listen of every single day. We're free and available on all your podcast platforms. If you haven't already, head to the YouTube channel at Locked On Pistons. Hit that subscribe button or leave us a 5-star review on whatever podcast platform you're listening to this on. That's another great way to support the podcast. Your favorite podcast also now has a newsletter introducing the Locked On Pistons daily newsletter. One stop for ultimate team and league coverage delivered right to your inbox. Sign up now for free at lockedondaily.com. That's lockedondaily.com and start your day with the all-new free Locked On Pistons newsletter. You guys will love it. I'm telling you guys, make sure you guys go subscribe to the Locked On Pistons newsletter. Also, today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. You can start the season with a big return on FanDuel. Place your first $5 bet and you'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. Visit FanDuel.com to get started today. Before we get into the game, also make sure you guys head over to the YouTube channel at Koo Cahill to see a film breakdown of the Detroit Pistons loss to the Indiana Pacers. I'm sure you guys will enjoy that as well. This was a very heartbreaking loss for the Detroit Pistons. A heartbreaking loss for the fan base already. Like I'm seeing the reaction from the fan base. It was a tough loss for the Pistons to sustain here against the Indiana Pacers. Later on, I just realized. I apologize for everyone watching on YouTube. I just realized I did not swap to the updated graphic here. I'm sorry. It is not talking about a fun year in Game 1 prediction. We are now talking about a tough opening loss. We'll talk about positives from this game later and things they have to improve on later as well. But I want to break down why the Detroit Pistons lost this game. The score of this game was 109 to 115. The Pistons actually led for the majority of this game, which was shocking. I do want to say right out the gate, I was incorrect about this game being incredibly high scoring. I thought this game would be in the 120s. I did not think the Pistons could defend Indiana at all. And for the first half, I was wrong. For the first half, the Detroit Pistons did an absolutely incredible job guarding the Indiana Pacers. I believe NBA.com is not updating the stats. Here it is. In the first half, the Indiana Pacers had 49 points. So the Pistons did a great job in the first half, playing hard defensively, communicating, getting up in guys' grill, playing physical, rotating excellent. They were so crisp with their rotations in the first half. They were really locked in defensively. Guys that are not good defenders were really locked in defensively. So after the first half, the Detroit Pistons did a great job of playing defense. However, in this second half, they just could not slow down Indiana at all. They could not get a stop for their lives. In the second half, Indiana dropped 66 points on them. After the first half, the Pistons were leading this game. After the third quarter, the Pistons were still leading this game. And then they got outscored 33 to 19 in the fourth quarter. Now, a lot of people are going to try to say that it was the offense that fell apart for the Pistons in the fourth quarter. And yes, they did go on a scoring drought in the fourth quarter. However, the by far the biggest reason why they lost this game, they could not get stops. They were falling apart defensively. They were scrambling defensively. Instead of in the first half when they were rotating perfectly and the rotations were crisp, in that fourth quarter, guys were getting wide open threes. Band-Aid Mathurin got 2 wide open threes. Tyrese Halliburton got a wide open 3 to end the game for the Pistons. Miles Turner in the third quarter got wide open after wide open after wide open after wide open 3 and just made them pay. The Pistons were no longer making good rotations defensively, and Indiana was just getting 5 shots form shooting off on them in that second half. In the beginning of the fourth quarter, when the Pistons really were starting to get attacked by TJ McConnell, the Pistons couldn't stop him from getting to the rim. He was getting to the rim routinely. He was really torching Ivy in the beginning of that fourth quarter. They could not get stops when it mattered. Jalen Duren was getting attacked almost every possession by Miles Turner in that second half, pick and popping. In the first half, Indiana was pick and rolling a lot. In that second half, Indiana was running a lot of pick and pop, And as you saw in the preseason, Jalen Duren looked improved a little bit defensively in every game but the first one. And the reason why he didn't in the first one, he went against Brook Lopez, and that's a stretch big. So it seems like Jalen Duren, as of right now, still struggles a little bit or quite a bit against stretch bigs and knowing how to guard them correctly. And Miles Turner just absolutely made them pay with that in the third quarter. So defensively, that's where the Pistons, I said on the last episode, they were going to have to do something defensively. They are going to have to hold up defensively. They want to have a chance against this team. You weren't going to be able to stop and beat Indiana if you weren't going to be able to come up with some key stops. And they just were not able to in this second half. That is by far the biggest reason why the Pistons lost this game. And it's absolutely a tough loss. An absolutely tough loss to have. Because the Pistons, there were positives that came out of this game. Cade played absolutely exceptional in the second half. Cade ended the game with 28 points, 8 assists, 5 rebounds. By the way, he received Locked On Pistons first. This is what the name's going to be. Locked On Pistons first. Kudos player of the game. He received the first one of the season. So Cade played tremendous. Struggled to shoot a little bit in the first half. I believe he started off 1 of 7. But in that third quarter, he scored 18 points, 8 of 9 shooting. Absolutely went crazy and gave the Pistons the lead. Kept the Pistons in it when Indiana looked like they were trying to creep back in and take it away. Absolutely went crazy for the Pistons. But they just couldn't get any stops, man. And I think that you started to see in that fourth quarter some of the concerns that I have with their personnel defensively. They can try hard. They can be physical, and they can try. And JB is going to try. And I thought he did about, to be honest, I think JB did about as good of a job he possibly could have when talking about getting the most out of these guys defensively. Because for a half, he had Tim Hardaway Jr. looking like a competent defender. He had Malik Beasley looking like a competent defender. He had Tobias Harris looking like a good defender. Like he got, I feel like, the most that you can out of these guys. The problem is these guys just don't have a ton in them defensively. And in that second half, you saw Indiana really start to attack the Detroit Pistons' lack of point of attack defense. They started to attack Ivy. They started to attack Beasley. They started to attack THJ routinely. And they really started going after Jalen Duren in the pick and roll, especially with Miles Turner. And the Pistons just don't have a guy to really slow that down without Asar Thompson out there. Without Asar, they just don't have somebody to put on someone on the point of attack and really just slow them down. There was a lineup for the majority of the second half, actually, not even just a lineup. For the majority of the second half, Cade was probably their best defender on the floor or the best perimeter defender on the floor. And he was checking, I believe at that moment, why am I slipping? Why am I forgetting his name? Naismith. He was going Naismith for the majority of the time. And he would switch on to Tyrese at times, but they were just attacking everyone else on the floor defensively. And that's something they're going to struggle with. That's something that they're going to have to try to work around. Not having the best defensive personnel late in games. Teams and now I will say this. Everyone needs to understand this as well. Indiana was just in the Eastern Conference Finals. Like I told you guys in the last episode, they were the best offensive team in basketball last year. And they showed that in the second half. Like these guys, I saw a lot of Pistons fans kind of trying to be disrespectful to the Pacers. I don't know why. Indiana's a damn good team, and they are probably going to finish as a top 3-4 offense again this year. Like they are an insane offense. So not every team will be able to exploit this in every different way like they can. So take that for what you will. However, in a game like this, eventually what ended up happening for the Pistons is that they weren't going to be able to go toe-for-toe offensively with Indiana because Indiana's just a better offensive team. And after you get that lead going into the fourth quarter, they just could not string together enough stops. TJ McConnell started to get at them. Benedict Mathurin woke up in that fourth quarter. Again, if you went through quite literally my 3 keys to winning this game that I posted on the YouTube community, tweeted out as well with our graphic. The first key to victory was limiting turnovers. I thought the Pistons actually did a fine job of that. They only had 12 turnovers. So they did a good job of that. The second one was limiting Benedict Mathurin. You can't have Mathurin also go off with everybody else. And they did a good job until the fourth quarter. And then he woke up. He finished the game with 19 points. that killed them. In the fourth quarter, he woke up and that just killed them. And then the third key to victory I had was they had to push on when Indiana tried, because Indiana loves to play fast, as you saw in this game. They love to score quick. They ranked first in the NBA last year in shots taken in the first 9 seconds of the shot clock. They love to play fast. The Pistons needed to make them pay for when they turned the ball over or they missed those shots to then run back at them and use their numbers. And they didn't do as much of that in the fourth quarter. It seemed like they got a little tight offensively. But also the problem was, honestly, they couldn't get a stop to try to run on in the fourth quarter. They just couldn't get any stops. So defensively, I think people are going to try to say offensively they didn't score enough in the fourth quarter. But the reason why the Pistons were able to score as much as they did throughout the rest of the game, at least I felt like, was because they were getting stops and able to attack a retreating defense and get more points against a rotating and a defense on their heels. And they just weren't able to do that. They weren't able to do that in the second half. They couldn't get a stop. And when you go against a team like Indiana, they're going to make you pay for that kind of thing. They're just going to make you pay. And, I mean, it is what it is. There were some positives from this game. There absolutely were some positives, and we're going to get to those when we come back. But the Pistons have a brutal start to the season. A brutal start to the start of their season schedule-wise. And when you have a chance to get a win like this, when you have a chance to beat a team like Indiana and you have that win in your hands and your best player is playing the way he was playing, you have to get that win. You just have to. And it's a gut-wrenching loss for the team, and it's a gut-wrenching loss for you guys. I understand why you guys are upset. The Pistons should have won this one. They had a chance to win this one. They just couldn't close it out. So let me know in the comment section down below or over on Twitter at KukaHill. How do you guys feel after this game? It was a fun game. I can't lie. Like, this was a fun game to watch, despite the fact that they just couldn't close it out. Let me know how you guys feel about this. Comment section down below or over on Twitter at KukaHill. There were some positives, though. We're going to get into those. It wasn't all bad. There were some positives. I'm a procrastinator. I wait to the last second with everything, especially when it comes to buying tickets to my favorite event, whether it's a theater event, a sporting event, a concert, anything like that. I wait to the last second just because I'm lazy. I mean, it is what it is. And it often screws me over. But with Game Time, it really saves me. Not only do they give you last-minute deals that obviously are up to the last minute, but sometimes even after the start of the event, you get good deals on good tickets for you. Also, within the app on Game Time, you can see the view of your seat. No longer purchasing tickets, getting to the event, and being like, oh, well, is what it is. These seats were terrible. Nope, you get to the event, or you get to the app, I should say. You can look in Game Time and see exactly what the seats look like before you purchase them. You also get the lowest price guarantee, or Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. Your purchase is covered with the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time. So I want to thank you guys again for making Locked On Pistons your first listen of every single day. We are free and available on all your podcast platforms. If you haven't already, head to the YouTube channel at Locked On Pistons. Hit that subscribe button or leave us a 5-star review on whatever podcast platform you're listening to this on. That's another great way to support the podcast. And if you are a loyal listener of Locked On Pistons and you want to support the podcast, you want to really support me, the best ways to do it, leave a 5-star review, subscribe to the channel, subscribe to my personal YouTube at KukaHill, where I'll be doing film breakdowns. I'll have one out for this past game against the Indiana Pacers. And also, please subscribe to the Locked On Pistons newsletter. You guys will absolutely love it. Head over to LockedOnDaily.com, type in your email, and you will be sent a daily newsletter along with the podcast every single day. I really appreciate all of you guys. If you guys want to help support the podcast and help me out, those are the best ways to do so. I really appreciate you guys. Look, it was a tough loss, but there were definitely positives from this game. There were some positives. The main positive, obviously, is Cade Cunningham. Cade played probably one of the, if not the best quarter I've seen him play in that third quarter. He started off the game in the first half not shooting very well. He started off 1 of 7. However, at halftime, he had 6 assists to just 1 turnover. and the Pistons were up. He was still finding guys open. They were still getting open shots. They had good spacing. They were getting good offense going, but he wasn't hitting his shots. In that third quarter, he woke up and just started dismantling the Indiana Pacers. Went 8 of 9 from the field, 2 of 3 from deep, just started dominating the Indiana Pacers in a multitude of different ways. He had a spin, double clutch, layup at the rim that I've never seen him attempt before in my life. He had 2 off the dribble threes, which thank you, Cade, for taking. He took 6 threes tonight. Love it. Take 6 threes every single game. Take these pull-up threes. Make them respect it. Extends your gravity. Makes you a completely different level of player when you're able to do that. He played an exceptional third quarter and played extremely well the entire second half. Cade played an exceptional game. 28 points, 8 assists, 5 rebounds, 3 turnovers, 43% from the field, 33% from beyond the arc. Got to the line 6 times, made all 6 of them, had 28 points on 23 shots. So reasonably efficient as well. He had a really good game. And in that second half, especially in that fourth quarter, he turned it up defensively. He had a key steal. This was probably the turning point of the game, to be honest, if you want to be real. He got a steal on a Tyrese Halliburton pass. He read Tyrese Halliburton, cut off the back door and stole it, led a fast break, passed it off to Tobias Harris, who was running down towards the rim. Tobias runs into a player and one. They call a foul. Pistons go up and one. Crowd's going crazy. A big turn of events. Rick Carlisle challenges it. Call overturned. A charge on Tobias Harris. That was a turn of the events. That right there was... That probably is when things really turned for the Pistons. Now, at that time, it was a close game. I believe it was a 1-point game at that time, and the Pacers were starting to heat up. But that was the Pistons, like the Pacers, bop, 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 like hit them with 3 punches, hit them with an uppercut. Pistons stood up, and that right there was like their right hook right back at the Pacers, and it basically was taken away. So that was a big turn of events for the Pistons. But, I mean, it is what it is. Cade was exceptional. Cade played a great game. The other positive from this game was, at least in the first half, I'll say, the Pistons veterans showed up and showed out. The reason why the Pistons were still in this game, despite the fact that Cade was shooting 1 of 7 and was able to create this offense, was because Tobias Harris showed up in the first half, Malik Beasley showed up in the first half, and THJ showed up in the first half. Now, I will say this about THJ. THJ has an insanely quick trigger and is way too eager to shoot all the time. He is ready to shoot at all times. Now, it helps sometimes because he provides that type of gravity. Teams know that he's ready to shoot, so they have to respect him. So you got to take the good with the bad. But definitely in the second half, there were some times where he's just like, there was literally one point in the fourth quarter when he went up to take a pull-up 3 with someone in his face, realized he couldn't get it off, dropped the ball, and had to wait for someone to come get it because he couldn't touch it without traveling. So, but I will say this, a positive for THJ. I thought THJ played overall really well across like both halves for what you expect out of him. Like he didn't, in the second half, he kind of fell off a little bit defensively, but he was still hitting shots. He hit 2 threes in the second half. He did his job. He had 14 points in this game. Like THJ did exactly what you need of him. Played 28 minutes, hit 4 of 7 threes. Like I thought THJ did his job. So I want to give him credit. I thought he did exactly what you expect out of him. Tobias and Malik in that first half did everything you want them to do. They were hustling on defense, making incredible rotations defensively and offensively, were hitting shots and scoring the basketball. However, in the second half, I mean, this is the other end of it, they just couldn't hit shots in the second half. Tobias had 13 at halftime, didn't score again. He ended up shooting 1 of 6 from 3. He had some really good looks in that fourth quarter and just couldn't hit them. Some really good open corner threes for Tobias, and he just could not drain them. That was heartbreaking. Those are heart-wrenching for the team within the half court. That was tough. And then Malik Beasley, after being 4 of 8 at halftime, only made 1 shot after that. He went 1 of 5 after that. Tobias, after starting off 6 of 9, he went 0 of 4 in the second half. Didn't get many shots either. So the positive was in the first half, you saw what they can bring. You saw what they can do. Now you need to see them do it for a full game, but in that first half, you saw what can happen and what they bring to the team. And I will say this in Tobias Harris's defense. People are going to pick on Tobias because of how the second half went for him offensively, and that's fine. I thought he was competing his ass off defensively. Now, he was going at Pascal. Pascal had 2 tough buckets on him in the fourth quarter, but those were incredibly tough shots that he forced on Pascal. And for the majority of the night, he was playing Pascal incredibly well. He was fighting his ass off defensively. And not just on Pascal. When he got switched on onto Hallie, when he got switched off into Bandit Mathurin, Tobias was competing defensively throughout the entirety of the game. He gained a little bit of respect for me on that end for that. Because Tobias is not going to be a great defender. He doesn't have great talent defensively. But he absolutely gave it his all throughout the entirety of the night and was as physical as he possibly could be with Pascal. So he gets my respect for that. Like that it didn't end up paying off in a win, but he made life tough on Pascal. I know Pascal ended up shooting 8 of 15. He hit 2 really hard shots in that fourth quarter on Tobias. One of them was like a spinning turnaround step back jumper. Tobias was all up in his grill after closing off like 3 drives. I give Tobias respect for that, man. I thought he played first half really well offensively, and defensively, I thought he played as best as Tobias can for the entirety of the game. So I thought those were the other positives. The other positive I guess I can find within the game, Ivy does a really good job at getting to the free throw line. And I thought he got 9 free throw attempts tonight, and that was really big. And I will say this as well, and we'll get to things that have to be improved on. With Jaden Ivy, we'll talk about him later. There was a stretch. I think the most impressive stretch to me from Jaden Ivy in this game was the end of the third quarter. No, not the end of the third quarter. Actually, yeah, there was a brief stretch before Cade came back in and hit that step back 3. The stretch at the end of the third quarter where Cade was really carrying them. He ends up coming out, and it's like, okay, Cade really kept them afloat. Indiana was throwing punches. Cade was throwing punches only by himself for that third quarter. He comes out with about 3 minutes or so left in the game, or in the third quarter, and you're like, okay, this is what the Pistons supposed to be different about. This is what's supposed to be special about them, is that when Cade goes out, Ivy's still in the game, and it keeps them afloat. And for that stretch in the third quarter, Ivy did exactly that. Ivy went out there, scored the ball, created open looks, and he kept them afloat during that stretch, and that's what you want to see. Now, it didn't carry over to the fourth quarter. He didn't play very well in the fourth. But during that stretch in the third, I thought he gave everyone a glimpse into what could make the Pistons a special – what's their specialty? Is that, hey, when Cade goes out the game, you're still dealing with Ivy, and he's going to keep him afloat. You're going to be a constant attack with Cade Ivy. And you got a glimpse of that in that third quarter. So I thought that was another really good positive for the game. But, I mean, that's where I want to end it off, to be honest, with the positives, because there are a lot of things that need to be worked on and things that you come away after this game saying, man, that's something that we're going to have to watch to see if they actually improve upon. And we'll talk about that when we come back. PrizePicks is the best place to get real money sports action. With over 10 million members and $1 billion in award winnings, PrizePicks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. You just pick more or less on at least 2 players for a shot to win up to 100 times your cash. Run your game all season long on PrizePicks. You can now win up to 100 times your money on PrizePicks with as little as 4 correct picks. PrizePicks is the best place to get real money sports action. Join over 10 million users and sign up today. PrizePicks puts its members first, so all withdrawals are fast, safe, and secure. When my picks hit, I can get my money in as quick as 15 minutes. You can also play alongside Drewski, Joe Budden, and MMA champ Sean O'Malley. You can find community plays under the promos tab of the app to view entries from some of the biggest names in the PrizePicks community. You think Justin Jefferson will get more than 83.5 yards next week? Christian McCaffrey, if he were to ever come back at this point in the season, to run more than 75.5 yards? Cook up those hot takes with your friends and win real money this football season when you and your crew run your game on PrizePicks. Download the app today and use code LOCKEDINNBA to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Again, I'll say it. Download the app today and use code LOCKEDONNBA to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks, run your game. So I want to thank you guys again for making Locked On Pistons your first listen of every single day. We're free and available on all your podcast platforms. Oh my God, I just completely had a brain fart. I just zoned out for some, I don't know what just happened. Leave us a 5-star review, whatever podcast platform you're listening to this on. Hit the subscribe button at Locked On Pistons. Also subscribe again to the daily Locked On Pistons newsletter at LockedOnDaily.com. Type in your email. You get a daily newsletter with the podcast, and also subscribe to my personal YouTube channel at Kook Hill to get film breakdowns of every single Pistons game this upcoming regular season, or this current regular season now that it's here. Those are the great ways to support me and help out the podcast. I'd really appreciate it. There are quite a few things the Pistons need to clean up if they want to have a better season this year. The first thing, Jalen Duren defensively is going to be obviously a storyline we're going to watch for the entirety of the year. I think you've gotten a quick glimpse. It's only one game, but a quick glimpse at where his improvements may have came from and where he still is going to really struggle. Because I thought in the first half, he did a really damn good job defensively against Miles Turner. I thought he did a really good job. There was a play specifically in the second quarter when he did a really good job at closing out to Miles Turner at the high post on a DHO. He fakes the DHO, tries to drive on Duren. Duren does a great job closing him off, forces him baseline, turns the ball over. Great possession from Duren. I thought he did a really good job attempting shots at the rim or attacking to protect the rim in the first half. He didn't end up with any blocks, which, by the way, over the last 6 games, going back to last year, he has not recorded a single block for what that is. Take that for what it's worth. In the first half, I thought he showed better effort, more locked in defensively, and just more awareness around the rim as a rim protector. That is a positive, I thought, in the first half. However, in the second half, just like you saw in the Milwaukee game, in the first preseason game, Miles Turner, they started running a lot of pick and pops. And Miles Turner just absolutely started frying them. He hit 3 threes in that third quarter. Was just going crazy in that third quarter. He just went bonkers. And Jalen Duren couldn't defend it. And that's something going back to last year he struggled with. He's always struggled against guarding stretch bigs. That's something the Pistons are going to have to figure out, whether it's a scheme issue, something they can do better scheme-wise to put him in a better position against stretch bigs. All I know is that in 2024, you are going to go against teams more routinely that have stretch bigs. Whether they're starting or not, most every team is going to have a stretch big somewhere on their roster. Whether it's as a starter or off the bench, they can run in certain lineups. And the Pistons need to figure that one out, because that was an issue in the first preseason game against Boston or Milwaukee, my goodness. And it was an issue all last year for the Pistons going against stretch bigs. So that's an area they're definitely going to have to clean up and look at moving forward, because that's going to pop up probably a lot if they don't figure something out with that. Something else that needs to clean up. Simone Fontecchio did not have a good night at all. This is probably the worst game I've seen him play for the Pistons since he was acquired. In that second half, there were 4 players that really in that second half started to get exposed defensively, that Indiana was attacking over and over. Tim Hardaway Jr., Jalen Duren, Jaden Ivey, and Fontecchio. And I've never seen Fontecchio during his time with the Pistons get attacked as often as he did in this game defensively and look as bad as he did defensively. Usually he holds his own, and he's at least a passable defender. Through those 16 games we saw of him last year, he was a passable defender. He tried, he gave his effort, he used his strength. He was fine. In this game, the Pacers absolutely went after him in that second half, and he was not ready. He was not. Now, I don't know if it's because he's still recovering from his offseason surgery. We'll give him some time. It's just the first game of the year. It's not overreacting too much. But from this first game, Simone Fontecchio, Ivy, Duren, and THJ just started to get really attacked in that second half. And specifically Fontecchio, I was shocked by how much they were attacking him and how much he had, or how little answers he had for it. So that was tough. The other thing was Jaden Ivey did not shoot well this game. He shot 5 of 13 from the floor, didn't make any threes. He got to the free throw line 9 times, continues to be just, it's hard to stop him going to the rim without fouling him. He's going to rack up free throw attempts. And he still did end up the game with 17 points because of how much he got to the free throw line. He ended up with 17 points on 13 attempts from the field. So not terribly inefficient. Definitely inefficient from the floor, but overall, including free throws, wasn't terribly inefficient. He ended up shooting, 5 of 11 on all 2-pointers. not the best. Again, we're just tracking it because he looked exceptional in the preseason, shooting-wise. He took a couple pull-up middies in this game, wasn't able to drain any of them, wasn't able to hit any of his threes. That's something they're going to need from Ivy. They're going to need Ivy to hit those shots, especially when Cade goes off the floor and they need him to show up and really keep the Pistons afloat. I thought a key stretch of this game that really hurt the Pistons was the beginning of the fourth. And the beginning of the fourth quarter, T.J. McConnell really just took over. T.J. McConnell just was unstoppable at the beginning of the fourth quarter and outplayed Ivy at the beginning of the fourth. That was Ivy's own lineup when Cade was out the game, and this is how the beginning of the fourth quarter went. Now, I don't know what happened with the technical foul that Mathurin got to shoot at the beginning of the fourth. I don't know what Holland did to get a technical foul, but whatever. The first 3 minutes of the fourth quarter went like this. Ivy missed, McConnell layup. Duren dunk, Mathurin free throws, Beasley 3, McConnell driving layup, Ivy missed flowing shot, McConnell layup, Pistons timeout, Ivy free throw 1 of 2, then McConnell layup again, Duren free throw, McConnell assist. Like TJ McConnell for the first 4 minutes of that fourth quarter just took over and just like dominated the Pistons. I couldn't believe it. But man, he is a pretty good player. Let me not disrespect him, but he's a good player. But he took over that fourth quarter for the Pistons. So, and you can't have that. You got to win those matchups. The Pistons absolutely have to win those matchups. And they just weren't able to do it in the fourth quarter. And looking at these fourth quarter stats, man, like, I don't know what Benedict Mathurin puts in his Gatorade when he goes against the Pistons, but he just gets up for the Pistons, man. He had 14 points in the fourth quarter on 3 shots. He had 14 in the fourth quarter on 3 shots. He made all 3, got the free throw line 9 times. Like, I don't know what's up. I don't know what the Pistons did to this dude, but in that, it looked like the Pistons held him down, and they were winning the game because of it. They were able to keep Tyrese down. Turner started to wake up a little bit. Pascal started to wake up a little bit, but you kept Tyrese down, and Benedict Mathurin wasn't killing you, so they were surviving. But as soon as Benedict Mathurin woke up and you added another guy to it, it was just over with. It was too much offensive firepower, and he exploded, absolutely exploded in the fourth quarter. So, I mean, look, it's the first game of the year. There are some positives. There are some negatives. You know, this was a winnable game for the Pistons. This was a winnable game. And it's a heart-wrenching loss. But, I mean, at least you can take out of it, this is a really damn good team they went against. They stood their ground, and they played a damn close game and really probably walk away feeling like they should have won against a team that was just in the Eastern Conference Finals. We said that a lot last year, and it didn't amount to anything. Hopefully this year, it actually is used as momentum to string along some wins. But this was a tough loss, man. This was a tough loss for the Pistons. They should have won this game. They absolutely should have won this game. They just couldn't get enough stops defensively. They couldn't string together enough stops defensively, and they let Mathurin take off in the fourth quarter. But that's all I've got for you guys today, man. Thank you guys for making Locked On Pistons your first listen of every single day. Free and available on all your podcast platforms. Hit that subscribe button to the YouTube channel. Subscribe to the Locked On Pistons daily newsletter at LockedOnDaily.com. Subscribe to the personal YouTube channel at Kook Hill on YouTube to get a daily or a film breakdown every single Pistons game. Also, leave us a 5-star review, whatever podcast platform you're listening to us on. Until next time, I'll see you guys later. Stay safe out there. Go Pistons, man. They're right back at it on Friday, I believe, against Boston. Friday or Saturday against Boston. So, actually, I believe Saturday it's Boston at home. And then they play a game Friday. I forget who against. But right back at it. We'll see how they do. Hopefully they can get some wins, man. This was a tough one, but they have a chance to bounce back. Until next time, I'll see you guys later, everybody. Peace out.